will try to be very brief and address one specific and very narrow question within this general theme of European democracy, Europe between the document and the spirit, and that is a topic that has been mentioned several times yesterday, the topic of the relationship between functional societies and social trust. I will briefly address the issue of whether Europe enhances trust, specifically what I will call moralistic as opposed to functionalist trust, and in that sense whether Europe, from a philosophical point of view, whether Europe as a projected society, not just a supranational para-institutional entity, but a projected society, does anything for us as human beings in the moral realm. What was the point of the creation of Europe? What did the European federalists with Altiero Spinelli and the others think when they dreamt of Europe? Did they dream of the European Commission or the tariffs? Or did they dream about the United States of Europe in a romanticized sense as a future European society which will do something for us to be better human beings, to live better, to have a more cohesive identity, to have a special and articulated European society? I think the latter was more likely the case. So does Europe, as a projected society, it's still not a society, enhance, degrade trust, or is it indifferent to trust? American philosopher Eric Asleiner wrote a book several years ago distinguishing between two types of trust, between what he calls instrumental trust and moralistic trust. Instrumental trust is the trust that is earned. I know some of you, and I have reason to trust you that you will not steal my wallet. So I will leave my bag next to you without worrying that it will disappear, because I know you and I have instrumental trust in you. I know that I can trust you. This is not moralistic trust. Moralistic trust is a prima facie, a prioristic trust, which I exhibit as a response to certain moral expectations that I feel are being posed at me. In order to be a decent human being, if I adopt this moralistic view, I need to be trusting of people generally. I will be more morally likable, if you want it that way, if I am trusting of people than if I am suspicious. So there are areas, for example, in America, Asleiner describes this, in Oregon, you spend time in Oregon, where there are almost deserted highways through the woods where people maintain fruit stalls, where they sell fruit.
Yes.
And you can see stalls with fruit, with a price for a certain quantity of fruit, but no people. Nobody attends those stalls. So there's no way to employ instrumental trust because you don't know who will pass. This trust is not earned. The people who own these stalls display, according to Asleiner, moralistic trust, because they start from the assumption that other people are decent human beings and that they are expected to act as decent human beings by being a prioristically trusting of others. Apparently theft is a very rare occurrence there.
Almost not.
This is my first time in Croatia since Croatia became a member of the EU. And I was expecting, I've been to Croatia many, many times, but this is the first time since it became an EU member. And I was expecting that the ordinary people would be ecstatic. Every single one of the ordinary people I met in the street is hesitant, cautious, even anxious. Do Croats believe that they're trusting the trust that permeates their society, and it is considerable, it's Croatian society is relatively cohesive compared to other societies in the region. Do they believe that membership in the European Union will enhance that? Let's think together. Do they? Let's try to judge. It's impossible to give a definitive answer, but let's contemplate that. Do Greeks trust the European Union? Do the Portuguese trust the European Union? Do the majority of the Brits trust the European Union? How many people is that altogether? Do aspiring member countries trust the European Union? Do old European member countries trust each other? Is trust a salient characteristic of the projected European society? Does the projected European society rest more on trust, or is it more a corporation-like entity, which is based on interest, regulation, institutionalization? Niklas Luhmann famously wrote in his seminal work on trust that trust is a precondition of any decent society, and he used the metaphor that if we didn't trust in Aslena's moralistic sense, if we didn't perceive ourselves, even though he considered himself a functionalist, even if we start from a functionalist point of view, we need to employ moralistic trust in certain situations. He says, if we didn't trust others a priori, without asking them to first prove themselves to us, we wouldn't be able to perform even the basic social tasks. We wouldn't be able to get out into the street without assembling a full combat gear. We need to be trusting, prima facie trusting, that other people are benevolent, that other people are generally decent. Now, did Croats trust Croats more before they became members of the EU, a member of the EU, or do they trust each other more now? What do Croats, ordinary Croats, think about those few Croats who will receive places in the European Parliament, and about their motivation, and what did they write about them in the media? And what did they think about these same politicians before Croatia became a member of the EU? And what was the media coverage of these same people before they became the Croatian representatives, or were to become the Croatian representatives within the EU institutions? Did Greeks trust each other more when Greece was not a member of the EU? Or do they trust each other more now? How about the Spaniards? I was in Spain 2 months ago, and the discourse about the European Union is now dramatically different compared to the discourse that they had 5 or 6 years ago. You can say this is all because of the economic crisis, this is all because of the issues of sustainability of these countries within the various levels of integration within the European Union. All I want to say is that it is highly dubious whether Europe can become a society. It is highly dubious what Altiero Spinelli and others would say about Europe as it is today. And it is highly dubious whether we have any philosophical roots to say that European Union makes us better in a fundamental sense of being members of a community. Whether the European Union is able to fundamentally contribute to the quality, the moral qualities, and if you want, the cohesiveness and the functional qualities of our communities. Even if it makes our institutions more accountable, even if it makes our laws more harmonious, even if it makes social transactions more predictable. The mantra seems to be predictability. Will it necessarily contribute to our communities becoming better in the moral sense and in the emotional sense, which is connected, as Robert Solomon wrote, which is connected with our moral sentiments which really make up the sense of community. I would just like to share this dilemma with you and to help initiate a discussion on this. I don't have a definitive position on this, but I'm unconvinced that the answer is positive to all of these questions.